Think you have seen every weird, wild, and utterly unhinged classic truck that ever rolled off an American assembly line? Think again. Today, we are unearthing 10 of the most outrageous, jaw-dropping, and brilliantly bizarre classic trucks ever built. Vehicles so strange you will question the judgment of every executive who signed off on them. Make sure you stay until the very end, because our number 10 entry is a truck that Ford engineers seriously proposed powering with a nuclear reactor. Not a metaphor. An actual uranium-powered atomic core sitting between the rear wheels. If you love weird automotive history, smash subscribe right now, ring the bell, and tell us in the comments which of these machines you would actually dare to drive. Let us roll. In 1961, Chevrolet was watching Volkswagen quietly eat their compact market alive and decided the only logical response was something nobody expected. Instead of a conventional front engine layout, engineers took their rear engine, air-cooled Corvair car, buried the 145 cubic inch flat 6 entirely under the cargo floor, and then cut a full-width hinged door into the passenger side of the bed that swung all the way down to street level at a 22-degree angle, a built-in loading ramp directly from the curb into the bed. Enter the Chevrolet Corvair 95 Rampside. Bell Telephone Company bought entire fleets to roll heavy cable drums straight up that ramp. West Coast surfers slid their boards in without touching the tailgate. It was genuinely ahead of its time, brilliant. But the fatal flaw was hiding directly beneath those surfboards. Stuffing the engine under the cargo floor created a massive hump right down the center of the bed that made loading anything practical into a geometric nightmare. Then Ralph Nader published Unsafe at Any Speed in 1965 and tore the entire Corvair platform apart. Showroom traffic died. From 11,000 Rampsides in 1961, sales cratered to 851 in 1964 before Chevrolet quietly buried it. A new Rampside cost $2,000. Clean survivors today bring $20,000 to $30,000 from collectors who know exactly what they are looking at. Weirdness meter, 8 out of 10. Loading dock ingenuity, 9 out of 10. But while Chevrolet tried to revolutionize cargo loading, Dodge decided to exploit a federal loophole and build the most notorious performance machine of the entire 1970s without technically breaking a single law. By 1978, the muscle car era was completely dead. The Clean Air Act had strangled horsepower out of every passenger car on American roads. Then Dodge engineer Tom Hoover noticed something extraordinary buried in the EPA rulebook. Light trucks above a certain gross vehicle weight were sitting in an entirely separate regulatory category, totally exempt from the same emissions rules choking every car on the market. Dodge grabbed their D-Series pickup, dropped in a Police Interceptor-derived 360 cubic inch V8, bolted twin chrome exhaust stacks straight up out of the bed like a miniature big rig, painted everything blazing canyon red with gold pinstripes, and priced it at $7,000. Enter the Dodge Leal Red Express. This truck was legally producing 225 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, while every sports car around it wheezed. Car and driver clocked it reaching 100 mph faster than any other American vehicle on sale that year. Faster than a Corvette. Faster than a Trans Am. They marketed it as the last American hot rod. Every word was accurate. The fatal flaw was fuel prices that kept climbing and lines at gas stations that kept growing. The Leal Red Express drank premium like water at the worst possible moment in American economic history. Dodge built 2,188 in 1978 and 5,118 in 1979, then pulled the plug. That original $7,000 truck now clears $40,000 to $60,000 at auction. Weirdness meter, 7 out of 10. Outrunning Ferraris with a farm truck, 11 out of 10. Now before we go any further, if a truck from your past just came rushing back to your memory right now, if your father had something loud and red in the garage, if your grandfather drove something wild and impractical, and you thought it was the greatest thing you had ever seen, drop that memory in the comments. We genuinely read every one. And if you are not subscribed yet, fix that immediately. We go this deep into automotive history every single week. Hit subscribe, hit the bell. Let us keep going. Nobody in the history of international trade has ever outsmarted a government tariff with more creativity than Subaru did in 1978. The United States had imposed a 25% import duty on foreign pickup trucks to protect American manufacturers. It worked on almost every Japanese automaker. Almost. Subaru engineers did something so magnificently deranged it belongs in a business school textbook. They bolted 2 spring-loaded plastic jump seats directly into the cargo bed, installed lap belts, classified the whole vehicle as a 4-passenger car instead of a truck, and shipped it to America, paying under 3% import duty. The United States government accepted this completely. Enter the Subaru Brat. Brat stood for Bi-Drive Recreational All-Terrain Transporter. It ran a 1.6-liter Boxer 4 with 67 horsepower and full-time all-wheel drive. President Ronald Reagan owned a 1978 Brat at his California ranch and drove it to haul wood and tools until 1998. The most powerful man on earth chose a tiny Japanese all-wheel drive pickup with plastic chairs in the bed over literally anything else on his property. The fatal flaw was the carpet. Because the bed was legally passenger space, it had to be carpeted. That carpet held moisture, caused rust, and most buyers ripped it out immediately, meaning Brats with original jump seats still installed are now the rare and expensive ones, because owners destroyed the very feature that made them legal. New Brat cost $5,000. Clean jump seat examples now fetch $15,000 to $20,000, with values up 126% in recent years. Weirdness meter, 9 out of 10. Presidential ranch approval rating, 100 out of 10. But if Subaru beat the government with paperwork, our next classic truck beat Ferrari on an actual drag strip with a sinister black pickup that nobody saw coming from any direction. In 1991, trucks were slow and sensible. Ferrari was untouchable. And then GMC quietly rolled a machine into dealerships that wore a truck costume but had absolutely no intention of behaving like one. Enter the GMC Syclone. GMC took the compact Sonoma pickup, installed a turbocharged 4.3-liter V6, making 280 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque, added Borg-Warner all-wheel drive routing 65% of power to the rear, dropped the suspension, fitted fat speed-rated tires, and wrapped everything in black aerodynamic bodywork with matte lower trim. One color, black only. It looked like a thunderstorm wearing a truck costume. Car and driver lined it up against a 1991 Ferrari 348 Teats. The Syclone hit 60 mph in 4.3 seconds. The Ferrari did not keep up. That photo ran on their front cover, but the fatal flaw was the 500-pound cargo rating. The lowered suspension and odd hardware left no room for payload. The bed was decorative. At $25,500 in 1991, it cost twice what performance truck buyers expected, and both truck people and sports car people walked away confused. Only 2,998 were built across 2 model years combined. Today, documented low-mileage examples exceed $60,000 to $80,000 at collector auctions. Weirdness meter, 8 out of 10. Ferrari humiliation legacy, permanent. But while the Syclone owned everything in a straight line, Dodge was answering a question in a Michigan factory that absolutely nobody had ever thought to ask. There is a very good reason convertible trucks do not exist. Structural collapse, flying cargo, canvas tops, a single roll bar that offers rollover protection approximately equivalent to a sincere wish. Dodge knew all of this in 1989 and built one anyway. Enter the Dodge Dakota Sport Convertible. Dodge was watching Dakota sales slide and needed a desperate Hail Mary. They shipped standard Dakota trucks to the American Sunroof Corporation in Michigan, where workers removed the roof, installed a canvas folding top, added a roll bar, and sent them back to dealers at $14,425. Available in exactly 3 colors: red, black, polar white. The world's only modern convertible pickup truck, powered by a 125 horsepower 3.9-liter V6. With the top down and the sun overhead, it looked genuinely like freedom. The fatal flaw was structural physics. Pickup trucks derive enormous rigidity from their roofs. Remove it, and the chassis flexes in every direction it was never designed to handle. Owners reported windshields rattling, doors misaligning, and a chronic feeling that the truck was slowly disassembling itself over every railroad crossing. Dodge built 2,842 in 1989. Sales fell to 909 in 1990. In 1991, reportedly just 8 were assembled to fulfill the final contract. 8 trucks in an entire model year may make the 1991 Dakota Convertible the rarest production Dodge ever built. Original price, $14,425. Clean survivors today cost $10,000 to $18,000, remarkable value for one of the most deranged approvals in American truck history. Weirdness meter, 9 out of 10. Structural confidence, 2 out of 10. Think a convertible pickup is the most impractical truck ever greenlit? You have not seen the one whose cargo bed was carpeted wall to wall like a hotel suite. In 2002, Lincoln watched Cadillac's Escalade X sell to wealthy buyers who wanted a truck without the indignity of using one and decided to do the same thing at a higher price with considerably less utility. Enter the Lincoln Blackwood. The Blackwood sat on the solid Ford F-150 platform. Above those bones, Lincoln installed heated and cooled leather seating, genuine oak wood trim, and then committed the single most spectacular act of automotive impracticality since the horse and buggy. They carpeted the truck bed. Wall to wall. LED accent lighting. Polished stainless steel walls. A power hydraulic tonneau cover. Rear barn doors instead of a tailgate, a fully carpeted bed in a truck selling for $52,500, which is roughly $92,000 in today's money, with no four-wheel drive available at any price. The fatal flaw was obvious to everyone who heard the words carpeted truck bed. You could not haul anything. One bag of topsoil destroyed it permanently. Lincoln projected 18,000 annual sales. They moved 3,356 total units before canceling the program while the 2002 model year was still running. Dealers sold remaining stock below invoice to clear floor space. Clean Blackwoods bring $25,000 to $35,000 today, which feels like appropriate cosmic punishment for forgetting what trucks are actually for. Weirdness meter, 9 out of 10. Practical cargo capacity, 0 out of 10. But while Lincoln built the truck nobody could use, Chevrolet answered in 2003 with a truck nobody could explain. Chevrolet looked at the hot rod nostalgia movement and decided to build a retro-styled truck that would make everyone feel complicated emotions simultaneously. The result baffled automotive historians for years. Enter the Chevrolet SAR. SAR stood for Super Sport Roadster. It drew every visual cue from Chevrolet's 1940s advanced design trucks, with massively flared fenders, chrome everywhere, circular headlights, and rounded bodywork that looked like a 1949 Chevy pickup restored by someone who had never heard the word restraint in their life. It was also a convertible, a retractable hardtop folded into the cargo bed in 25 seconds at the push of one button. Early versions used a 5.3-liter V8 producing 300 horsepower and ran to 60 mph in an embarrassing 7 seconds at a price competing directly with the Corvette. By 2005, the actual Corvette LS2 V8 was dropped in, pushing output to 390 horsepower and finally making the performance match the looks. But the fatal flaw was identity. At $41,000 to $48,000, nobody could decide who it was for. Too slow early on for performance buyers. Too small bedded for truck buyers. GM closed the factory that built it after 24,112 total units across 4 model years. The rare 2006 6-speed manual with only 576 built now brings $35,000 to $50,000. Weirdness meter, 8 out of 10. Appropriateness for a midlife crisis, 10 out of 10. Now we have seen trucks that dodged import tariffs with lawn furniture in the bed, humiliated Ferraris while barely able to carry luggage, and sold a carpeted bed for $52,000. Nothing has prepared you for what comes last. Prepare yourself. In 1958, America was living its most aggressive chapter of nuclear optimism. Submarines, power plants, the atom was going to solve every problem civilization had ever faced. And Ford's advanced styling studio, led by first-year designer Jim Powers, asked the question that still makes nuclear engineers visibly uncomfortable 70 years later: what if we put a nuclear reactor in a truck? Enter the Ford Nucleon. The Nucleon was a long, impossibly low, futuristic vehicle with a removable power module suspended between twin rear booms at the back. That module contained a miniature nuclear reactor, a steam turbine, and the entire drivetrain in one swappable unit. Drivers would exchange spent cores at nuclear refueling stations every 5,000 miles. Different core sizes available for different range requirements. Ford believed miniaturization would make this possible within a generation. The fatal flaw was physics. A functional reactor requires tons of lead shielding to contain radiation. The waste heat demands cooling infrastructure larger than the truck itself. A minor collision breaching containment would create a federal nuclear contamination event requiring full evacuation of the surrounding area. Nuclear technology was nowhere near automotive scale in 1958, is not close today, and may not be ready for decades. Ford built only a 3/8 scale model of the Nucleon. No full-sized body, no working prototype. That model lives today at the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan, sitting peacefully next to vehicles that never once threatened to irradiate their neighborhoods. Price when new, 0. It was never sold. Weirdness meter, 100 out of 10. Recommended safe following distance, several counties. From the truck that outsmarted a government tariff with a pair of plastic chairs, to the truck that proposed solving the fuel crisis with uranium fission behind the driver's seat, the history of classic trucks is a story of engineers, dreamers, and executives who looked at reasonable limits and decided those were more like suggestions. You have a truck story. Everyone who grew up around these machines does. Maybe it is your grandfather's rig that smelled like oil and took 3 tries to start every cold morning. Maybe it is the impractical one your father bought that your mother hated and you thought was the greatest thing on 4 wheels. Maybe it is the one you let go of and still think about every time you see something similar at a stoplight. Drop that story in the comments right now.